Hello students, welcome back to the next class. Here, today we are going to start with the new chapter, classes and objects. Now, you already learned in the previous chapter, you know what is a class and what is an object. What's a class? Class is nothing but a blueprint or an instance. It's a blueprint from which individual objects are created. An object is nothing but any real entity with its own characteristics and behavior. So now, as you know, in OOP languages, classes and objects are used for secure access of data. Security is very important, right? Secure access of data. A class is also a user defined data type. It is a user defined data type, but it contains data members and member functions. Later, data members and member functions can be binded together to form an object. In object, it is a combination of data members and member functions. So, an object is a basic construct in your object-oriented programming. Now, coming to your class. Here we are going to repeat the same things which we have done in the last class with a bit of extra. A class is as we already said, a class is a user-defined data structure that contains similar type of objects. It contains similar type of objects. That is, if objects have same type of properties and behavior, those can be put under one group called a class. For example, bike, car, bus, etc. anything have got similar kind of data. That is a shape, color, model, cost, etc. and behaviors, that is the starting and stopping, braking, clutch, gear, system, motion, etc. Therefore, all these together are considered as similar type of objects. All these are objects, similar type of objects, and therefore it comes under a group called as vehicles. So, where vehicle is the name of the class or the class name. So, a class is a blueprint from which individual objects are created. The definition of the class contains data members and member functions. Therefore, interaction between the object is easier through methods or functions. Now, you remember your structure which we had done last year. What is a structure? Structure is a group of heterogeneous elements, right? But it can be accessed, structure can be accessed by, any function. But in a class data structure, data members and member functions can be declared on the head of different access control specifiers. In class, you are going to declare the data members and member functions on head of different access specifiers, different access control specifiers like private, public and protected. Accordingly, the data members are made available for your different functions. So, that is about your class. Next, coming to your object. As already mentioned, an object is an instance of a class. The real world objects always has two characteristics, that is, one is your state and behavior. You can also say it is characteristics and behavior. An object contains made up of two elements, characteristics and behavior. For example, car is an object which comes under your class vehicle, right? So, a car can have, what are the characteristics of the car? The characteristics of the car can be a speed, gear, color, type, etc. What is its behavior? Behavior of the car, that is changing the gear, applying the brakes, changing the gear, applying the brakes. All these comes under your behavior. How exactly it works. So an object is made up of characteristics and behavior. Now, as I said, a function. What is a function? The most important thing in this, what is a function? Function is nothing but a set of instructions or statements that you are going to give to get the result. It may take arguments and return values. It may have, if you remember, types of functions, right? There are 5 types of functions. Functions with arguments, with return values, with arguments, no return values, without arguments, with return values, no arguments, no return values, recursive functions, right? So function may have arguments and return values. If a function does not return a value, then it is known as a procedure. Then a method. The next term is method. Method or a member function is similar to a function. It belongs to classes or objects and usually expresses the data of the objects or the class. These are the terms which you're just supposed to know. Now, how are you going to interact between the class and object? As we said, a class is a blueprint from which objects are created. It contains data members and member functions. Depending on the class members, objects are created. Now, the next part is your declaration of a class. What do you mean by declaration of a class? There is a difference between your declaration and definition, right? Declaration. A definition actually implements the declared identifier. It is what the linker needs in order to link references to those entities. So, an declaration introduces an identifier and describes its type. So, a declaration introduces an identifier and describes its type. It may be a type, object or function. So F declaration is what the compiler needs. An object is an implementation of a class. Object is an implementation of class. In terms of variables, class would be the type and object is the variable. Class is of type and object is your variable. So the classes are defined using the keyword class. This is very important in your definition. Classes are defined using a keyword known as your class. This is the most important thing, the keyword class, which is required. Now before going to the next definition, syntax, let us go to the next part, that is your definition of your class. Definition of a class. I think let us end this session here. We'll continue further in the next session.